All right, hello everybody. I am Amethine. I am here with Twist today, my partner, who helped me co-found a Discord that we teach people how to do a lot of prog rating in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And today we're going to be talking about gatekeeping in MMOs and why we're not big fans of it.
Boo.
So, Twist, why don't you kick us off a little bit here and I don't know. I guess give me your perspective on what exactly gatekeeping is in MMOs. Let's kind of start there.
All right. I guess I'm of the opinion that gatekeeping is it's essentially what it sounds like. You're keeping people from passing a barrier that stands between them and what you might consider like elite endgame content. And there's a whole bunch of reasons that people do this, and almost none of them are legitimate reasons. Um, there's a certain level of skill that is required to get to those like end game raids and end game content, but anybody is capable of achieving that level of skill as long as they put in the effort, as long as they're willing to learn. And by literally shutting the gate on those people, you end up hurting yourself in the long run by lowering the population of the people that are even interested in doing this, because they're terrified to approach higher level people and say, "Hey, I've never done this. Can you show me how to do it?" Because they think they're going to be laughed at or ridiculed or made to feel like they're just not good enough.
Well, they think that for good reason, right? Like, they think, like, the good reason, well, it's not a good reason. I'm not saying it's a positive thing. But the reason that they think that is because it actually happens. Like, there are these, let's say, elite tier gamers. Their skill might be elite, their personalities aren't necessarily, but that actually do shame people for not knowing something, forgetting that there was a time when they themselves didn't know what to do or how to do
Yeah.
it.
It always amuses me. One of the things I think is so funny is people advertising for hard modes, even in games like Star Wars, like what we're watching here, where hard modes are difficult to a certain extent, but they're nowhere near as hard as something like what's going on in this video, where you're spending 20 minutes killing the same boss, and if you mess up once, you've got to start all over again.
Well, and the hard
Um,
mode version of this fight is totally watered down compared to what's going on in this video. Like, this is the master mode, the nightmare version.
oh yeah, and but what makes me laugh is that people will be advertising in like the end game channels or like looking for group, and they're like, oh, we're looking for 3 DPS for hard mode Scum and Villainy, like must link clear. And- so you want these people to have cleared the content before they clear the content. Like time travel is not a raid buff.
Well, and
So
stuff like that was more, I guess, more practical, even though I still wasn't a fan of it back when the game had a higher population. But we're talking about this through the context of Star Wars: The Old Republic, right? But this is something that's true across all MMOs. Even
oh
something
yeah.
like World of Warcraft, which has a vastly larger population than Star Wars: The Old Republic does. SWTOR is more niche at this point. It's more
Yes.
people who just love the game for what it is. They want to play Space Barbie or whatever, or they just like the Star Wars universe. That's really who's still playing SWTOR, or just the diehard Star Wars fans for the most part. But if we look at it through like World of Warcraft with a larger population where gatekeeping is still very much a thing, and it is in SWTOR too, linking achievements and stuff is more. It makes more sense if you're not willing to teach runs, but also like to just prevent people from learning something is obnoxious to me. And that's especially true in SWTOR now with a lower population. It's like beggars can't be choosers, man. Like teach people how to do this stuff. Otherwise, you're gonna run out of people because eventually all the people that do know how to do it, or at least most of them, are gonna leave. They're gonna get
Oh
bored and
yeah.
they're gonna go on to greener pastures.
Yeah, well, and you'll end up with, the this like I was saying, all these people that they're even just too afraid to approach higher tier players and ask them for help. And you'll see that. And you were talking about World of Warcraft, and of course, my history in World of Warcraft. And I went from a very casual PvP oriented player to being a very, very long term, very high ranking progression tank and healer. And I got very, very lucky in early on in my Warcraft career, where I encountered a guild that was much like what we are in SWTOR, where they were a very high tier endgame guild. And I approached them with this attitude that I really wanted to learn, and I had never done, heroic mode or, hard modes or whatever outside of a couple easy bosses and pugs. But I really, really wanted to learn. And I was filled out an application and they like took me, and that never happens, and I was in a guild that had some notoriety to it for years. Um, and if they hadn't done that, maybe I would have turned into an elitist jerk. Like if I hadn't been taught, by a bunch of dudes just throwing me into a hard mode and saying, "Here, have fun," and just walking me through it. And then that's what we've done, and I feel like if you do something like the video we're watching, where every person in the video, with the exception of like ourselves and one other person, were people that we met in the end game raid chat or in like the general chat on the fleet. They hadn't really had a whole lot of even hard mode experience. And over a period of what, 6 months, we took this group of people and we showed them how to do things, and now they're clearing the hardest content in the game.
With us, mind you. So like we didn't just create people who knew what to do. Like we didn't just teach them how to do it, but we also created friends. Like we developed these relationships, and now these are people that once we've cleared all the most difficult content in this game, this is a team that could stay together and move on to other games.
It's a team that wants to stay together and move on to other games because
Yeah.
we've mentioned that, and people have expressed that. Oh, that sounds great. And like we're a team, two teams actually.
Yeah, so we didn't just create a team. We created a friendship, we created relationships, we created loyalty, not just to us, but us to them as well. Like, they've stuck by us just
Oh
as we've
yeah.
stuck by them. Like this, and let's be very clear, we're not the only two people, and our Discord isn't the only one that offers to take people through the hardest content in the game, or even offers to teach to a certain extent. But I do think we're the only ones that teach in quite the level of detail that we do, and
Yeah,
have as much patience as we do, which is sorely lacking in general across gamers, particularly in progression rating nowadays. Is there's not a lot of patience, which is something that you really need when it comes to progression rating, especially when you're taking a team through it that's never seen a raid or an individual fight before. Like, because you're gonna wipe over and over and over and over. You just are. And if anyone thinks that you've ever gone into something and cleared it for the first time because you're just that good, no, you didn't. You either, like, you probably got carried, is probably what
yeah,
happened. Well, no, not me. I'm perfect. No, you're not. You make
yeah,
mistakes, and no one should shame you for making mistakes, just like you shouldn't shame anybody else for making mistakes. It happens. It's okay.
yeah. I always kind of it makes me I admit to having a little twinge of I don't like to call it superiority or elitism or whatever, but I do kind of laugh in like a I don't really know the right word. It's kind of like an ironic way when somebody will be like, "Oh yeah, I just cleared insert really hard raid, and we just totally memed it, or it was just so easy. That wasn't as hard." And I'm like, "Well, were you the only person on the team who hadn't cleared it yet?" Because I think you might have just got a little bit carried, and that's okay. It's okay to get carried. Everybody gets carried every once in a while. Like you carry me sometimes. like, hey, it is what it is. But when you do something like take six people, who had never done anything, seven people, six people, five people, a large group of people who have never done anything, and you teach them from scratch, and you watch them progress from having a basic idea of their rotation and a clue that, oh, maybe my gear is not optimized, and they put in the work. You watch people put in the work to learn their character, to learn their rotation. They practice, and they have a goal, and they really want it. And it's just this really good feeling when you do that. And there's people that don't realize how much they're actually hurting themselves by being jerks for no reason, or acting like, oh, I'm just so much better than you. I can solo heal this absolutely ridiculously just, hard encounter, and you're totally dumb if you don't let me try. And gonna get in your group and take it over because I know better than you. Like we experience that kind of crap, and we lead nightmare raids. It's just
So
it's so silly.
I'm gonna interject for just a second here because I want to make a distinction, right? Like there's nothing wrong with knowing that you're good at something, and there's also nothing
Oh,
wrong with making sure other people know that you're good at something. The
oh yeah.
problem starts when you start putting other people down. Like there's a difference between saying I'm awesome and saying I'm awesome and you suck.
Oh yeah.
Those are two very different vibes.
Well, I mean, it's like, yeah, I've always thought that too. And because you should, if you're good at something, it's something I've always thought was also really silly, is that, like, if you're good at something, you're not supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to pretend that you're just oh so humble, and some people are just naturally humble, but I
Yeah,
also
but
think
for
it's
some
okay to be,
reason we're allowed to say that we're bad at something. Like that's okay. Like when did that
yeah,
become the norm? Like no, like I'm not if I'm I will acknowledge when I'm bad at something, but I also get to acknowledge when I'm good at something.
right. And because there's a difference between being like, oh yeah, I'm good at this. This is my natural environment. Like I enjoy this, and I can help you get better at it. Like that's something. That's how I feel when I'm playing my assassin tank. Like here in this video, I'm like, oh, like this is home. I know what I'm doing here. This is what I was made to do in this game. And I'm good at it, and I can teach other people how to be good at it, and I love to see them be good at it because, look, now you're good at it too, yay. Like, spread the good.
So I guess
I-
like where do you think this whole let's call it toxic gatekeeping, right? Because there's a certain level. You already mentioned this earlier. There's a certain level of gatekeeping that's kind of required, right? Like if you just don't have the skill to do something, because there's a difference between not knowing how to do something and just not having the skill to do something, right?
yeah,
You can learn how to do it. And you can even learn the skill, but if you don't have the skill yet, then we have no business taking you into something that you can't handle yet. But we can help you get there, right? So
right.
so I guess like where do you think the toxic gatekeeping comes from, where it's like people don't even want to give you the opportunity to learn even if you have the skill? Where does that lack of patience or where does that ego or that arrogance stem from? And I want everyone to know we're not psychologists.
Yeah,
We're
no.
not talking about diagnosing people with anything or anything like that. We're just talking and giving our perspectives and opinions. So yeah, like where do you think that comes from?
You know, um, Honestly, I think it stems from a few different places, right? And like you said, like, we're not psychologists, mind you, but I've been doing this, as playing online games for a really, really long time, 26 years. And in my experience, gamers, especially at a very high level, um, tend to all share certain personality traits, and we're all very highly competitive. And there's nothing wrong with being highly competitive, just like there's nothing wrong with, like, friendly banter and crap talk. Like I hate you, by the way. Um,
It's okay.
there's
If I ever cared about what you said, I you know, we'd have we'd
Yeah,
have we'd have more
coming
long
out.
form conversations.
Wow. Okay. All right. Anyway, this is what I put up with all day, every day.
Yeah,
Um,
well, to quote Letterkenny, not my pig, not my farm.
oh jeez. Okay. I'm just gonna go over here now. Um, and figure out what the heck I was gonna say. Oh, right. So we were talking about the toxic gatekeeping and where I think it comes from, and I was saying that, gamers all at this level we're all highly, highly competitive. And I think that eventually, you get people can get to this point where they know they're good and they're being told they're good all the time. And it makes them feel really good to be acknowledged as good. And then if you combine that with how there is just unfortunately some segments of the population that thrive on attention of any kind, be it like negative or positive. So they'll get these attitudes and they'll have them like superiority complexes and expect to be worshipped because what? Because you can smash some pixels in a video game? Like you've got skill. That's great. That's awesome. But other people have skill too. And the thing that I think that people forget is that there's always somebody better than you.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I don't. That's something I don't understand is where that whole like you feel the need to put other people down because you're so good at a game. I don't understand that because I'm good at several different games. Like I know that I am, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying that I don't like the attention that people give me when they talk about how good I am in, let's say, Swoltor, for example, because that's the video that we're watching. Um, and I am really good, especially at DPS and SWTOR. Am I the best? No, but there are very few people who are better than me in that regard.
Right.
And
And
a couple of those people are advisors in our server. And I love having their input and having them help us get better at stuff. Because I know I'm not perfect. I know I can learn how to do things a little bit better. But there's only a select few people that I can go to reach that next level for me. And I do like the attention I get from people who haven't reached even, let's say, my level yet, if I'm going to be a little bit arrogant. But they can get there. They can even exceed me, and I hope they do. But I like the attention. But that doesn't make me want to go and start punching down and telling other people how terrible they are. Unless, we're talking to, like, a couple people on our team who were really just trolling, and they know we're trolling. They know we don't mean it, right? But
yeah.
you know when someone's just messing with you versus when they're actually being toxic. And we're talking about the actual toxicity. Like the ones who
Right.
are just rude all the time to strangers for no reason.
Yeah, like I can think of a few examples of those people that we've actually unfortunately had interactions with. And those were the people that I had mentioned where, you invite them into a group where, you're just trying to put together like a little casual hard mode pug, and they come in and they start like acting like they're God's gift to the game, and they're like demanding you make them lieutenants so that they can boot all the like low performing people in your group for their buddies because they just don't have any faith that anybody that they don't know is going to be able to do something that's actually not really all that difficult, but
Or they
people
come
just
in
need to
from
be
the
taught how to do it.
or they come in from the beginning and try to tell you how to run the group and all of that stuff. Like, oh, invite my friend, we're gonna solo heal it. No. If I wanted to
Yeah.
solo heal it, I would have advertised for a solo healer. I'm not saying it can't be solo healed. All right? No one's saying that. I'm saying I don't want it to be solo healed. It is my group. You're not going to come in and tell me how to run it unless I ask. Okay?
I thought you were going to say if I wanted it to be solo healed, I'd have Twist do it.
I mean, that's true too. There's a couple people in our server who could actually, fit that mold, but you're definitely the first one I would go to.
Yeah, but I don't want to solo heal it. Anyway, it's because I don't have that big of an ego.
Well, and it's
Like
not just
I don't
that, but
need to
like
do that.
you gravitate more towards tanking and DPSing nowadays anyway, and I want you
Yeah.
doing what you want to do. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Plus, I don't really feel the need to do something like that to pump up my ego, and I think that maybe that might have something to do with the toxicity, right? People, they just they it like makes them feel good somehow. Maybe it's like bully factor, like what makes bullies feel good? Who knows? Like maybe they're just sad. Maybe there's just some maybe their whole life is just really really crappy and they have nothing else going for them, where
I,
it's like
I
that's
mean,
not
maybe.
necessarily true for
Maybe,
everybody.
but I don't know. We're not really qualified to make those kind of assessments or assumptions. But maybe it's
Oh
true.
yeah.
I don't know. That still doesn't give them the right to ruin other people's day or lives or game time or whatever. But also, I have always believed, and this might be a controversial opinion, but I've always believed that bullying can serve a very important psychological function for people, whether you're the bully or the person getting bullied, right? For the person getting bullied, it's going to help you develop thick skin. Now, is there a line? Does bullying go too far? Absolutely. Of course. It needs to stop at some point, but you also need to know how to stand up for yourself.
Well, I think there's an important distinction though to be made between bullying, which is chronic and persistent,
Okay.
and teasing or hazing, which is temporary. It's is more of ritualistic in joining a group or whatever and seeing where you fit in the group dynamic. And yes, people do develop thick skins. I've developed a very thick skin. I've had to. As I hate to use the words because you know how I feel about it, but as a female in gaming, like I've had to develop an extremely thick skin. I've had to work twice as hard to get half as much as what a lot of other people have gotten. And I have to prove myself every moment that I play a game. At least I end up feeling that way. And granted, nowadays it's not quite as bad as it used to be, but it's still there, kind of like quietly lurking in the background. But because I experienced it, I have developed this extremely thick skin, and I am able to withstand a lot more, have a lot more patience. I have a lot of patience and understanding, for other people that are like going through this, where they get, and I tell them, you know, just the thing is that these people are online. They don't know you. You're never going to meet them. You're probably never going to interact with them ever again.
Okay,
Never
so
ever.
I'm going to stop you just for half a second. That is usually true, but there is a very real possibility that the community we've cultivated, this team that we've cultivated for our prog teams in Sweltor, we actually could meet in person at some point.
Oh,
That's how strong this bond has become, which is a testament to what we've been building here and why we feel so strongly about the toxic gatekeeping that we do. Anyway,
oh yeah.
sorry, I cut you off. Continue.
No, now I'm thinking about, yeah, Amethine Con. Let's do it.
I don't know about that. I was thinking more of like, let's just rent a cabin somewhere and play some video games and board games together. But we can go with your idea too. Like it's
I, whatever sounds good.
how would we shorten that? Amicon.
Amicon. Yeah, there we go. Amicon. Actually kind of sounds like that's like a cool company name. Amicon.
But no, continue your point. You were telling us a little bit about your story.
I don't remember which one I was at. Where was I talking about?
I don't. When do I listen to
Forgot.
you talk? I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah,
no, you were
no.
saying that you put up with like a lot of stuff to develop a thicker
Oh,
skin to achieve half as much, but that's less true nowadays than it used to be.
yeah, it is.
But no,
It is
I
too.
can, and I don't really want to get into like a lot of like super social issues outside of video games and stuff. But like, I don't.
Oh yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's you saying that it's a gender issue, right? Like that's just like you're just talking about. Are you just talking about your personal experience, or
Well, I don't, well, in my personal experience, the gender has some to do with it, like that's why it's one reason why a lot of the times, at least more so in the past, if I got into a group, like with a bunch of guys, especially like PvP groups and stuff like that, the minute that I opened my mouth, they would just be like, it's a girl. And then they would automatically like treat me differently. I was no longer just like a teammate, like they would try to flirt with me. And I'm like, I'm not here for a date. I'm here to kill people. Like I'm
In a
I'm like,
game, let's be very clear, in a game.
like, yeah, I'm not here to, that's not what I'm here for, you know. And so I would end up kind of having to like set boundaries and everything. But I also feel that male gamers have to do that too. It's just a different in a different way, but you know my history and how I am when we are gaming. I feel like I do not feel like I am treated any differently anymore because of my gender. I feel like that is something, it's like a relic from the past. And while it still definitely still goes on, it's becoming so like less and less frequent.
I think it's
That
more isolated incidents now than a norm.
Yeah. And then there's especially, and I will, of course, I will not name names, but there's this culture now I've seen that kind of made me feel good about it, where we had that one person on our SWOTOR server who was known for harassing female players and female characters and being very, very, very inappropriate. Um, and that person has been ostracized by the entire server. Whereas, like 15 years ago, he would have more been celebrated, and people would have like made guilds and characters that like had his name, and that it has been shut down. So I don't, like that
I don't
helps.
I don't know that he would have been celebrated 15 years ago. I think more tolerated might be a better way
maybe
to put that. I think tolerated would
maybe
have been
20
better.
years,
He wouldn't have been
maybe 20
actively
years.
ostracized, that's for sure.
Yes, but now he is. Now it's like I don't think there's a single person on the server that's actively involved in the community where if you said that person's name, they wouldn't know immediately who you were talking about.
Yeah, and like he's been given several chances too. It's not like it was a one and done. Like he had a period of time where he had really negative and toxic behavior, and people ostracized him. And then he came back, and people gave him another chance, and he kept getting booted from one guild and going to another. A lot of guild hopping because of his behavior.
Yeah.
And then he got ostracized again, and then he came back, and now I think he's going through another period of being actively ostracized again. And this might be the third strike that just breaks him completely.
Yeah.
Which I don't like saying people deserve to be broken, but he
Well,
definitely
there's just
does.
no excuse for that
Like
kind of
yeah,
behavior.
like you've had so many chances, and you keep doing the wrong thing.
And it wouldn't matter, like if it was a woman doing the same thing to like male players and male characters, it wouldn't matter at this point. Like you just don't behave that way. Like what the hell's wrong with you?
Well, it's not
You know?
difficult to not be a horrible person.
Exactly. Well, and I don't know. But yeah, like this is kind of like we were talking about gatekeeping. Like that's the kind of that's like not necessarily gatekeeping out of content, but that's gatekeeping out of community. And that is like absolutely necessary. That's the kind of like intolerance, like zero tolerance for that kind of behavior is good, because you're going to make your overall community, as far as like server wide, it doesn't even have to do with like our Discord or anything, although that person is persona non grata. It's not allowed in our Discord ever.
Sure, sure.
you know um
So yeah, no, I mean I agree, and I think we're getting a little off topic from the original
yeah,
point of this conversation. But it
I
was
suppose.
something that deserved to be mentioned. So let's kind of get back on track here. So we've talked about the gatekeeping, why we don't like it, and I went into a little bit about what makes our server and the way we teach people different from other servers in SWTOR specifically. So I guess from your perspective, like what is it about the even just the small little community we formed in our Discord that kind of, and this is a shameless plug for those that listen to this, but we have achieved something really really cool here. Like it's grown to a point that I don't think we ever expected it to.
I love
Um,
artists.
Yeah, so I guess what makes it so successful, what makes the community what it is, and what draws people, not necessarily just new people to us, but what keeps people coming back to playing with us from your point of view.
Well, I mean, you can always say from my point of view, but it's also like I've gotten feedback, from people. I'm always interested in hearing what people have to say. I like to know that our community is a place where people feel like they're welcome, and
Remind me to ask
they're
you another question about that too when you're done. Sorry.
okay. I like knowing that people find our community to be like very open and welcome, that we are willing to teach, and we genuinely do not believe that you can ask us a question that's stupid. No question is actually dumb unless you're like purposely asking something that is a little off the wall.
I can think of one
Like
person who does that intentionally.
yeah. Yeah, but like if somebody, comes in
And
and is
we
like,
love him, by
"Hey,
the way.
yeah." But if they're like, "Hey, my gear's messed up. How do I fix my gear?" And I'd be like, "Well, show me. Let me see it." And then I will do the math for them. I will show them what to do. I'll explain to them, like this is the number you're shooting for, and this is why you want this number, and I'll give them the whole rundown of the mechanics and the way that their class works and how their stats interact with their abilities, and I know that you do the same thing. We'll go over people's rotations and we'll take them and even bring them to a practice dummies and have them go over it with us over and over and over again until they get it right because they want to learn. And I think that that's one of the big things, other than the fact that you're just absolutely awesome, so everybody loves you. Um, that people keep coming back because we'll take you to do something, and we don't care how many times we wipe. There's a time limit, sure. Like, we've got a 3-hour block. So if we wipe 30 times trying to do a boss, we wipe 30 times trying to do a boss, but we're going to teach you how to do it until you
Yep.
get it.
Yep. But and
You
then
know?
we'll be back next week and we'll do it again. We will fight we will do this fight until you've completed it. Until we've all
Yeah.
completed it together. We
Like, I
will
mean,
get you through it. And we're not carrying you through it. You're pulling your weight.
oh yeah. Like, what did we even do last night? We took, was it at least 3 people, I believe, who had never cleared hard mode Dread Palace in Star Wars, and we took them through it, and they pulled their weight. If they
Yes.
hadn't pulled their weight, we wouldn't have been able to do it because you weren't DPSing.
Yeah, no, I was tanking. We were both tanking, and
Yeah.
but that's kind of the point, right? Like, we couldn't have cleared that without the people that didn't know how to do it pulling their weight because we weren't DPSing. The bosses were
Yeah.
not going to die without those people pulling their weight. Um,
Yeah.
so that kind of you mentioned that you get feedback from people, and that's what I wanted to ask about. So I don't usually get that feedback, right? Like, I don't usually, people don't DM me with the feedback and all of that stuff. Usually if I see the feedback, it's because they announce it in one of the Discord channels where they tag both me and you.
Yeah.
Saying thanks for teaching this, thanks for teaching that, and thanks for inviting me, all that stuff. So why do you think it is that people will DM you or have the one-on-one conversation and voice chat with you giving that feedback? Like, what makes them go to you and not necessarily approach me about it? Because it's not, I don't think I'm not approachable.
Oh
Right, I
no.
don't think that's the issue.
No.
But I guess I'm just wondering why that is, and this conversation is becoming more than what we intended, but I think that's okay.
It is. I mean, we can pare down some of the like stuff that's not absolutely necessary, but like I also think, at least for the people in our Discord, because we know that a lot of them are, obviously we're going to link this video in the Discord, so I think that the fact that we're talking about them, they're going to enjoy listening. So yeah, like, hi guys, I love you all. Um,
I don't, but I do like you a lot.
uh, wow. Okay. Um, I don't know. I think so when it comes down to it, we're both teachers. But you
Not
definitely
professionally, by the way. I've never gotten paid to teach a day in my life,
same,
except for
but
except for Taekwondo. I did teach that and got paid for it.
yes, 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 he did. Yes, he did.
Okay, let's get back on topic here.
I was just thinking of a picture that I have from when you were very young, and you probably don't even know I have. Anyway.
Okay, that's terrifying.
No, you were like 19, not like you were doing a taekwondo demonstration. You were doing a fucking kick, and I have the picture.
Okay, server approachability feedback. Why? Go.
Sorry. Okay. Anyway, um, yeah. So it's like even though we both teach, I think that you definitely have a little bit more of authority figure, whereas I kind of come across more as I hate to say it because I'm like server mommy, like people, because people will be like, oh, I'm so tired, and I'm like, have you drank enough water today? Like somebody will say they have a headache, and I'll tell them make sure you take some Tylenol. Like so I think that might have something to do with it, where people will just they'll say something to me because I'm also more into the casual conversation thing, obviously, every so often, not all the time. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe like it was actually kind of funny because it was when you and I were teasing each other the other night in Palace, and one of our raid team members said, "Mommy and Daddy are fighting." So
That was I think
it was
that
Sidious.
no, it was Yavi.
Oh, was it Yavi?
It was
Yeah,
Yavi. It
okay,
was when
Yavi.
we were it wasn't in Palace. We were teaching that it was in that Nightmare Dread Fortress run we were teaching.
Oh yeah, it was Mommy and Daddy are fighting.
Yavi's funny. I like him.
Yeah,
he's not on either of our prog teams. He just goes on those teaching runs that we do. Um,
yeah.
and he's just in the short time we've known him. It's only been a month or two, I think. He's come
Yeah,
a
and he's
long
just not
way.
pulling me so much though, because every so I'm
That's
just
so
like, well,
funny.
it hasn't even happened. Okay.
He was pulling soap too, and he kept trying to get soap in the lava.
Yeah, he got him. He got him. He
Yeah, but
got him,
didn't he
and
get
he did.
himself too? Like, wasn't it like he took himself down with him?
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, but I don't think he cares. Like he got him. I paid him the million credits too.
Such a troll. I love it.
It's like it's just for those people who are listening to this who don't participate in our Discord or whatever. I am known for putting multi-million credit bounties on people's heads so that they'll get pulled into like
On
environmental damage
team
spills.
members, not just random. We're not even talking about PvP. We're like find a way to
Well,
get your
look,
teammate killed as long as it's not during a boss fight.
well, like our teammate Soap, one of our team members, I paid them a million credits to pull him into the lava the other night. But the my crown achievement was paying Giri to pull you into the Sarlacc pit
That was
in the
50 million,
Villainy.
right?
Yep, 50 million. Yep, and I paid up too. I pay my bounties. I know how to Mandalorian.
All right. I think we can wrap this up here. Are there any final thoughts as far as gatekeeping, our server, anything in general?
I think like I just want to reiterate the whole thing about like gatekeeping, and the biggest reason why I think that it's a terrible thing to do, like
To an extent.
to that extent of keeping people who genuinely want to learn, or for just like dismissing people out of hand, right? Instead of being like, oh, if you don't know how to do it, I'll teach you. That was something actually you had just said about, why do people keep coming back? And that was some of the feedback that we had gotten, was that, one of the things that people really like about our server and really like about us is that we are willing to teach, that we will take, you have never done this, you have never done anything like this, you have no idea what you're doing, and we will walk you through it step by step, and we will be patient and tolerant of the fact that you've not done it before, because there was a time where we had not done it. And the only way that we got to where we are, is practice, repetition, and dedication. Like just like any other high-end sport or hobby, if you want to be good at it, you have to put in the work. And I would never just turn my back on somebody who's like, hey, I really want to learn. I really want to get better, but people don't want to teach me. Well, I will then, because somebody taught me once upon a time, and I wouldn't be the person that I am now if it wasn't for him. Thanks, Steve. Like, like I don't even,
Yeah,
like
so, and you talked about this earlier, it's like when people are talking about, oh, link your achievement to show you've cleared it and we'll invite you. It's like, well, just because someone doesn't have the achievement, that's not usually because of a lack of ability or a lack of skill. It's usually a lack of opportunity.
right.
And you're creating that lack of opportunity by being the arbitrary gatekeeper. Like, just because you've cleared the hardest stuff doesn't mean you have the authority to just decide who else does and doesn't get to. That's not how it works. So be humble, or at least don't be, well, pardon my French, don't be a dick. It's unnecessary.
I would say, don't be a dick, be a dude.
And if you don't have the patience to teach people, that's fine. But there's a way to convey that. You can just be like, hey man, like I get, like, you haven't completed it. I really don't have the patience to teach people. I don't have time to teach people. I really just want to get in here and clear it. That's fine. That's okay. But going so far as to be like, you don't have the achievement, you suck, you don't belong here, and let's not kid ourselves, that's what we're talking about, and that does happen. That's not okay.
I also like the people who think that because they have the achievement, that somehow entitles them to joining your group. Because I don't care how good you are. I don't care. You could be better than me, and I will not care, because I don't want to play with you if you're an asshole.
Oh, yeah. Like, we've said this several times in the groups that we've put together. It's like, I would rather take someone through it who's never seen it before but has a really good personality over someone who's cleared everything on the hardest difficulty but is, like, being around, I don't know, it'd be like, I would rather scrape my face across sandpaper than be around them because of their personality. I'm not taking that person into my team.
Oh. Face rat. Ow. But I agree.
So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap that up here. Thank you for listening. Once again, I'm Amethine. We had Twist with us today. I'm sure you will hear from her more because we do almost everything together. So, y'all have a good one.